Hello, everyone, and welcome to our next BB Dev Day session. I am Rosita Bradham. I am a customer success manager, senior principal at Blackbaud, and I am so excited to hear about how we could use templates with TeamRaiser. I've got two wonderful guests. They'll be walking us through some of their examples of templates and to show us how easy it is. I've got Bruce and Deanna, and I'll let them go ahead and introduce themselves.
Hey, everybody. I'm Bruce Baughman with Susan G. Komen, and today we're going to be discussing why you need a TeamRaiser template for agile event builds, faster project cycling, and less stress. And our TeamRaiser template was acquired from a partner, so we're going to discuss that. Certainly one could build it yourself, but as coders, Deanna and I opted that, hey, we wanted to work with a partner. So first of all, that's me, Bruce Baughman. I'm the senior peer-to-peer platform administrator at Susan G. Komen. I've been with Komen for almost 2 years. I have about 14 years of experience in Lumen Online and TeamRaiser, and I am in Asheville, North Carolina. Deanna.
I'm Deanna Spurvey. I am the manager of operations services. I have been with Komen for 13 years, and my TeamRaiser experience goes further back as a former Convio employee and volunteer for Komen Denver. My team is actually responsible for building all the TeamRaisers for our organization. So that's why we like this template.
And just to get started, so we're going to be looking at our templates and then how we at Susan G. Komen leverage it, and then we'll take some questions. So when I arrived at Komen, we didn't have a template, and we had our signature Race for the Cure and More Than Pink Walk, as well as a DIY. But any of our kind of standalone specialty events really required Deanna and her team to leverage old wrappers, old content, and it was a really difficult build cycle. And one of the things that I was a former Blackbaud partner, I really realized that giving folks a template allows them to be really agile and build out quickly. And then we can really answer our fundraisers' needs of, hey, I got this cool idea and I want to do it, and it doesn't fit with any other model. You know, it's not a signature event, but it's not a DIY. It's kind of bigger. So how do we do that? And so I suggested to our team that let's collaborate with one of our partners. And in this case, we work with Cathexis partners and ask them if they had a TeamRaiser template. Most Blackbaud partners will have at least one. And Blackbaud themselves actually has a couple of templates because, as you may know, TeamRaiser, building out from a standalone bare bones TeamRaiser is a little rough. I have, by the way, I worked at the Pediatric Brain Tumor Foundation long ago, and I built out a standalone TeamRaiser with just out of the box, and it did raise money. I mean, actually it raised $50,000, but it was rough and I didn't like the design. So that's when I got into trying to do a template. And so this is our actual template that we got in collaboration with Cathexis partners. So one of the things that we were looking at and we wanted to have is we wanted a top navigation. We wanted the top banner to be able, or the template title to be able to be changed by us easily. We wanted to own all the configuration. So what we wanted to do was leverage this existing template in concert with our partner, build it out and the way it would work for us. And so this is the part I was involved in such that then once it's really built, we pass it over to Deanna and her operations team, and then they can just, anytime one of our community development folks or an event fundraiser comes to us and says, hey, I've got this cool idea, they can actually build, Deanna's team can actually build it out. And we have an intake process around that. So we wanted to be able to customize the top of the page with a custom navigation, custom event name. We wanted to customize the banner. Below that, there's a little section. I'm actually going to screen share in a minute and show you the actual template. and we'll see a few of them in action. We wanted to be able to have a little section that we could identify maybe the event name and location. We wanted a thermometer. By the way, each of these sections is optional. We have a registration now section about the event, content block 2. All these are optional. So we're using and leveraging reusables for all our content blocks. So we use the template to create a structure and a framework. And then within Lumen Online, we used reusables. And so this particular template has a shared wrapper, although I will show you one event that we spun off from the template and created a custom wrapper. So this event has a shared wrapper, but some of the other elements are distinct. And so one of the keys I wanted to point out and share is that as part of what we're doing here at Komen, and this is my part as an administrator, is to collaborate with Deanna and her team and create a structure within Page Builder. So we have a shared wrapper, but within Page Builder, you can see we've identified the event names, and then we have within that subdirectories for assets and pages. So assets are any associated reusable scripts, CSS, or other elements. And, that would really, it's just a script or a CS. But sometimes we might have like our Google Analytics. It also lives in the CS and the assets folder, or GA4 rather. So pages would be content pages, which are embedded within the TeamRaiser custom pages. So those are like FAQs, info, etc. So while the pages folder in this case houses reusables, we separated it so that it would be, again, easy for the operations team to come in and make agile changes to maybe an FAQ or the event details page. But we are using the TeamRaiser standard pages in the navigation. So it makes it, when you build out the TeamRaiser, everything's in one spot, but we don't have to do a lot of major configuration. And this allows for fast iteration. And I'm going to let Deanna speak to that once I start showing the actual templates. But again, our goal was to try and build this out in such a way that we stress tested it and made it such that the operations team can build out, in as little as 2 or 3 weeks or a month. We wanted to make it fast. So we did stress test it. And, my part at Komen is to break fix stuff. And I am very good at breaking things. So we did break the template a few times. And in collaboration with Cathexis Partners developer, we resolved it because we're going to do complicated stuff. And that's kind of our nature here. And so we also want to be agile for our fundraisers. And I know I use that term a lot, but that's one thing in fundraising, as developers and builders, we're not always the frontline people. So what we don't want to do is create internal friction when somebody has a cool idea. So we can say, okay, sure. You vetted it. It's ready to go. It's a good idea. You've got the assets, because that's probably for this build, these type of builds, getting the pictures and the copy is the largest part of the build, because once the structure is in place, Deanna's team, and occasionally I'll help, we can go in and iterate fast. So let's take a look at the template in action. And so this is the actual template, and I'll pull that out. A couple of things for me to note for you all, just before we get too far. The little pink bubble in the lower right corner, Susan G. Komen, we use Salesforce chat. So we do have a chat there. So that's what the little pink bubble is. That was not part of the template. So across the top, we've got our template label. We've got our navigation with drop downs. So we can, about the event. And if you look, and I don't know if you can see it in the URL, you can see it's pulling up an SID 6712. So that's a TeamRaiser standard page. Scrolling down, you can see there's the thermometer. And by the way, you can see that we've got it. This is actually cycling through slides. So it does allow for a slideshow, or it can be static. We've got our register. And by the way, this is an actual TeamRaiser. So I've got our content blocks. We did do some testing. There's our participant search, fundraising leaders, our leaderboards. And then finally, the optional sponsor section. And so, Deanna, I'm going to go ahead and show the Ride for the Cure
Sure.
and just let you talk about how you built out some of this event. And if you want me to scroll around or click around, just let me know.
Sure, absolutely.
Before we get started, I'm sorry, excuse me. Before we get started, we had a quick question about what service did you use for the chat bubble?
It's Salesforce Chat.
Salesforce Chat. Okay,
this is a complete in-house. The chat is a completely in-house developed project. I worked with I'm part of the, so I should have defined. I'm part of the IT group. I am specifically in the architecture and engineering team. So I work with our architecture, and so I architect a lot of our systems, and so I collaborated with our Salesforce architect, and so this was completely an in-house project. It has some complexity.
Gotcha. So, thanks.
Sure. So sure. Deanna, Ride for the Cure.
Absolutely. So one of the things we have is a variety of events, and sometimes we get 2 days notice, sometimes we get 30 days notice. So this template has allowed us to quickly spin up the TeamRaiser. The Ride for the Cure, for example, is one that was spun up in about 3 days time, which is extraordinary. We have the limited banners. As this did have to go up quickly, we haven't added more content, but we have the limited banners flipping through on all of the pages. The sponsors are showing on this one as well. We do have the option, obviously, to turn things to false and not show sponsors. So we're not having to update HTML. We're going into a configuration file to show and hide some of these things on the greeting page. Different from what you saw in the template is we have 3 tabs for our fundraising leaderboard. And at any time, we can disable one of those tabs just through a configuration file. My team doesn't have to know any kind of CSS or scripting at all. They just go in and set things to true or false. If you want to go ahead and click through to the About page or the FAQ page, the top portion of these pages have a set format, but we also are able to quickly modify and remove the boxes and about boxes and just add content if needed. The FAQ pages, we're using an accordion style. There we go. So we can quickly get people to the main categories of questions. And this TeamRaiser really doesn't have a whole lot of content like some of the others. So using the template was perfect. The navigation we can obviously modify as needed to show and hide the different sections, again, through simple configuration files.
So I'm going to go over, and this is our Waco community walk. If you want to talk about this one.
Sure. This one has different pages or different photos on each of the sections that are static. And that's configured through, it's not the configuration file, but it's a different configuration file just for banners and whatnot, making it easy for us to quickly swap out the images only. You'll also notice that the logo at the top is just our standard Susan G. Komen logo. With the configuration file, we're easily able to change to either an event logo or just our standard logo.
Okay, and let's talk about the New Jersey one. This one is a big one.
Yes, this is one of our largest events that is not part of a series, and you can see they've already hit their goal, and we just went live with it recently. This one has all of the flash banners going across. It has lots of additional information. As this is a special one where we actually are showing teams by division. So we had Cathexis work with us to come up with that leaderboard that could be shown or hidden. We don't have companies in this one because it is, a youth event, and they do like to compete by division.
And Deanna, what was your development cycle on this? How long did it take from the time you got the request to the time you were able to spin it up?
I would say this one was one of the longer ones. Probably 2 to 3 weeks on this one. And again, as Bruce had mentioned, a lot of that is waiting for the content. We actually are able to, turn up the donation form and the template, within an hour or so. And then we're kind of in a wait mode on the information.
Deanna, could you, and Bruce, I don't know if you or we're going to do this, but could you take us through a quick tour under the hood of that configuration page?
Unfortunately, that's where we're kind of getting into some proprietary stuff, and our policy at Komen is to unfortunately not show, and in the context of this, is to not show some of our code. But I can talk to that once we get it. I mean, I can get as detailed on it without showing it, but I'll answer that a little more once we get into the QA section.
Gotcha. And then one other quick question. Realizing this is about the TeamRaiser templates, but do you know how Komen manages their TeamRaisers? Do you have one person / team, or how many TR campaigns do you do over a year?
So many.
That's interesting. So, okay. And Deanna, correct me if I'm wrong, but our race series has about 25 or 30 events. Our walk has... Oh, you know the numbers better than I do.
So it's probably about 10 race events and about 30 to 40 walk events. And that series is actually built off of a blueprint. Then we have other TeamRaisers for DIY. We have programs for ambassador programs like Pete's High Guys, Big Wigs. Those are built off of a template. And then these one-off series are, I think we're up to, what was it, Bruce, 10? Since we started using this template. So, and these all vary. We have volleyball for the cure, Go Pink for the cure, just some one-off events that might feed into different fundraising campaigns.
So at any one time at Susan G. Komen, we're probably running 60 to 80 TeamRaisers. And so we do have, so as to who manages, so Deanna and I also operate in the support roles. So if things are broken or there are structural or technical questions, we support that. We have a community development team, and that's actually, a community support team, and that's actually who answers the chat and supports questions, and offers the day-to-day. And then of course this event, like the New Jersey event or the Waco event, they have an event owner, and so you can see, like, here's somebody's email address, so that's the actual event owner, so they might field direct questions. So Susan G. Komen is a fairly large organization, and so we do across a lot of things. And Jeremy, I see you have a question about new campaigns. So all of these three, so the original template here was originally created as a standalone TeamRaiser template. And so this one, all of these, Deanna actually copied the template and built them out, or copied a pre-existing version of the template. I am going to show you one, and we did do this, where we went into blueprints. So all of our races and walks are built off of blueprints. We did decide as part of the build cycle, and this is something I address in the takeaways, is consider how big are you going to use it. So when we got into using this template initially, we thought, well, we want these standalone elements, but we're also going to want to use it for blueprints. And so here is our pickleball for the cure. And this is where we actually leveraged the template into a blueprint child series. So in this one, you can see in the URL, we actually have a page builder landing page. And then from within this one, and this event just launched, so we have, there's actually a number of TeamRaisers that are within this. And so the Pickleball Challenge is a standalone event, but the hosting event is actually a child event of the blueprint. And so this is the actual TeamRaiser. And this one, now that I've shown you the template, the structure is different. but you can see we've got the logo lockup that Deanna mentioned, and we've got the custom banner. This has a custom greeting page, so the layout is slightly different, but it does have our leaderboards. So again, we just launched this very recently. So this one does have that blueprint child relationship. Deanna, did you have anything about pickleball you wanted to share?
Not really. I mean, you can see that it's very similar to the actual template. Again, configuration allows us to change the background colors in certain areas. So obviously it was quick for Bruce to help get this spun up because we had that template, and then he turned the template into a blueprint so that when we have more host events, we can create those child events. Pickleball is unique in that all of the autoresponders and suggested messages and everything else are going to be the same, so we can push those down to the child events. The other events that we're using the template for are all completely unique. So we didn't want to do a blueprint because we know that we're going to be customizing all of those elements, the autoresponder, suggested messages, and configuration settings.
So yeah, Deanna touched on a way that we work. So I build the blueprints or the master templates, and then in collaboration with the operations team, pass it over to them, and let that team take ownership. So we work in a very agile fashion, and I support Deanna's team pretty much daily. She and I work very closely together, and we're constantly iterating new ideas. We're working on a whole new, Deanna mentioned our ambassador series, so we're working on a whole new iteration of that series. That's going to be a custom build, but this build off of this template. So we've built 10 standalone TeamRaisers as well as an entire signature series off of one template. So we've really leveraged the initial expense that came out of this. And I mean, I don't know the exact number. It was less than $10,000 for this template. And I know that as generally partners have them, and I know this question was going to come up, how much did you all spend? So, you know, templates usually are going to cost between $2,000 and I heard as much as $14,000. So again, you know, what you're doing as a developer is you're leveraging your time to say, oh, well, how much time would it take me to build this by myself? Oh my gosh, weeks, months. So if we could leverage a little bit of budget and then with some coding, start breaking it out and customizing it, and then even create the signature series. And that's the real takeaway here. So let's go ahead. And so I've got some screenshots. And by the way, I am going to share, Rosita, I have this PowerPoint presentation as a PDF, so I'll share that after this. And so here's some of our key takeaways is we want you to really encourage you to make this template work for you and consider all the use cases like we did. Deanna and I really put some thought into, as well as the rest of our event team, how are we going to use this in the long term? What are the things we don't even know about? You know, let's just consider real outliers. Then be sure to consider your wrappers and the structure that you're going to use in Page Builder. Be sure you have an understanding of all you need to update all content. So you don't want to get into owning a template and have certain parts of it be opaque to you. Like, well, how do I update that navigation? Make sure that you get all that information. Be sure your navigation and subpages all work as expected on all devices. You know, we do a lot of cross platform testing, cross browser testing. Make sure that we're always testing in template, because at Susan G. Komen, we have a significant number of tablet users that really like their tablets. Insist on a 90-day break fix warranty from whoever you acquire the template from, because, you know, you don't know, and you want to have some alternative. And by the way, we made use of this. Mm-hmm. There were things that Deanna and I found pretty quickly that we had to have our developer partner come back and repair, because we realized there were certain like session issues and session variables that we needed to talk about. be sure you test this template immediately and build at least one real event while you're in the build cycle, because that's what we did. And that's where we noticed, oh, wow, there's this, need to make sure that we're addressing things. And we noticed some mobile responsiveness, especially in the certain devices. Confirm, the template works for your event team, and be sure to include all your stakeholders in the process. You don't want to get into a build and then have somebody who's actually on the front line say, whoa, wait, I didn't know about this. What is this and how do I use it? Because if you get them psyched on it, they're going to really love it. And our team is really taking this out. Be sure you get complete documentation and be sure you review it. And Deanna, and I think you can speak to this, that you live by that documentation.
Yeah, we actually receive the documentation from the vendor, and then I go in and I use this term, and it's not to say that my team isn't fantastic. I dumb it down and really break down the steps so that they can run with the build without having to ask Bruce or I a lot of questions. So I Komenize our guide, and that's their Bible for building these TeamRaiser events.
And the final thing is, be sure to ask the vendor for a plan to account for future TeamRaiser updates. I mean, if they're a Blackbaud partner, they should have some awareness of what is on the roadmap and be able to address changes. For example, adding Blackbaud checkout as part of TeamRaiser, et cetera. So I wanted to address quickly the question about the configuration files. So that file is, in this case, originally was a shared file that defined the navigation and the page structure. We separated that out. So each of our template events have a separate config file, because that's what defines the navigation flows. They do have a shared footer, and they do have some of the elements are shared, like I mentioned, the wrapper. Different templates and from different partners will have different ways of being set up. So, for example, the one I had developed long ago as a partner didn't use a unified config file. It actually had separate elements. And so there was 4 reusables that you had to copy per TeamRaiser template. Blackbaud's template works slightly differently. So each partner is going to have their own slightly different template structure. And really, when you're shopping around, these would be questions you want to ask, but you want to own this, and you want to build it out in such a way that it fits the capacity of you and your team, and that you don't have to be reliant. Because quite frankly, for all these events, Deanna and her team is doing it with 0 retainer or consultant support. And so that was the end of the day. That's what my goal was to achieve out of this. So we have 2 minutes left. So, and thanks, Rosita, for the kudos on the pickleball. Yeah.
Of course. So thank you guys so much. So we can open it up now to any more questions that anyone may have. We really hope you got a lot out of today's session. I know I learned a lot. And I wrote down a couple of tips here. I'm going to definitely take back and look at some of my customers to see if they have been doing all these nice little tips and tricks. So we'll just leave it at that. If you have a question, you can use the Q&A or you can use the chat option, but we're going to hang out here for the last minute or so. And thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, everybody. Again, as trying to be supportive of our fundraisers, at the end of the line, Deanna and I want to support not just our fundraisers, but support the mission and support everyone that's involved. And I think all of you are on the same page. We wouldn't be at this conference. We wouldn't be doing what we're doing if we weren't directly engaged in the day-to-day support of our mission and trying to move forward with fundraising as strongly as we can. So I want to thank all of you for being involved in our industry, and look forward to next presentations. By the way, I will be at BBCon, so see me there. And Rosita, thank you so much for your support today.
Yes, thank you.
Of course. All right.
guess we're...
We are all done. You guys can drop off.
All right. Thank you.
Hey, we can go have lunch now.